Hey folks, I'm Jason. I'm a business coach. I've been doing this for about 7 years. Prior to that, I had specialty retail stores for 20 years, or was in specialty retail for 20 years. We owned the specialty retail business that I worked in 11 of those about 20 years. So I've been around specialty retail and retail in general several decades and in multiple positions. I've gone from folding T-shirts up to owning a business with multiple locations, 25 or so team members, doing several $1,000,000 in revenue. So I've seen a lot. I've been around a lot when it comes to retail, and I feel like I did a pretty good job at the time of teaching our team how to be great salespeople. Salesmanship is really what we talked about a lot. The way that we communicate with our customers and interact with them. And I did pretty good when we owned the business and did that, but since we sold that and I moved into business coaching, I've learned a whole lot more about this topic and this subject, and I've been able to guide businesses to get a lot better results than even I did when I had my business. So I want to share a couple of those ideas with you, because if you intend to be successful in retail, then these things will matter to you. If you don't plan to work on yourself and get better, then I guess you can skip this video and find something else to do for work, right? I guess that's what it comes down to. We all should be doing something that we have an interest in and some level of passion about. And when it comes to retail, we should work at an organization that values customers, that values the services or products that we sell. If you don't value that, it's going to come across in your salesmanship, and your sales capabilities are going to be pretty limited. So for those of you who want to actually develop these skills, and of course these skills, a lot of it's communication style, right? So a lot of these skills transfer well outside of retail. It helps me to communicate with my family and my friends better. It helps me to communicate with my team members better, these things that we're learning. So, let me share a couple of ideas. I'll put a couple of numbers to it as well that'll help kind of give it a little bit more context on, like, hey, what does this mean for the business if I pay attention to this stuff, and what does it mean to my paycheck? If you've got some level of bonus structure or commission structure associated with your performance in sales, then this should be really interesting to you, because this is going to be helpful in increasing those numbers, which increases your income, right? I want that for you and the business that you're working with that shared this video link with you. Hopefully they feel the same way too. That's probably the reason that they shared this with you. So that all being said, so I work with a firm based out of Asheville, North Carolina, and we work inside of a global network of coaching firms called Action Coach. So it's the longest running. It's about 33 years old. It's the world's #1 coaching firm. We have coaching presence in 83 countries in those 33 years. So obviously something's working, and these concepts aren't new. However, if you haven't learned them or if you haven't applied them, then they're not going to really pay forward for you in your salesmanship and the career that you're building. So our firm's motto is Be Epic, and what that stands for is bring the energy. And we'll be talking about that a bit in salesmanship today. So bring the energy is key. That's where it all starts. You've got to want to learn. You've got to want to serve. You've got to want to improve yourself, and you've got to want to improve your opportunities moving forward. Right? So we're not put on this earth to play small. We're put on this earth to have impact, and you can do that through sales. You can absolutely do that through sales. So B stands for bring the energy, and EPIC stands for education, which we're going to do some of today. Planning, so based on some of the things that we talk about today, you can make your own game plan and reach out to me if you've got any clarification that you want on that, on how to think about it for what you are specifically focused on. But we got put a plan together. I'm going to work on this and I'm going to work on this over the next several months so that I can improve some specific areas, right? I is inspiration. A lot of times what we find is just getting new perspective and seeing how I can actually implement this for myself and it actually be meaningful for my income. That's kind of inspiring for most people, right? And the C stands for commitment. So until you commit, which means take action, right? Until you commit, nothing happens. Nothing happens. You can watch this video and videos like it 100 times and nothing will happen until commitment happens. So that's what we're after today, and let me dig into it here. So where do we want to start? I guess where we want to start is who likes to be sold to? Raise the hands. Nobody ever raises their hand, right? But who likes to buy? And I guess it's safe to say every one of us likes to buy, right? So our definition of sales is professionally helping other people to buy. So rather than trying to go make sales happen, helping someone and guiding someone to make a great buying decision is a much different perspective on that interaction, right? So sales is icky, buying stuff is fun and interesting and engaging, right? Fun, interesting, and engaging, right? So we want to bridge that gap from sales, making it feel like a sale is being made, which is a transactional kind of feel, right? And we want to shift that into guiding them to make a great buying decision, okay? So you might hear my dog Tater in the background barking a little bit, so guess he's onto something upstairs that's interesting. Consumer behavior, and this is all consumer behavior across the board. Now, it looks a little different in every industry, and whether it's a product or a service, it looks a little different and feels a little different, but this is true consistently. Consumer behavior is driven 80% by emotion and only 20% by logic. So the logic's got to be there, and the emotion absolutely drives the sale. Okay? So what are the emotions that you notice are happening when a customer decides to buy from you? I can give an example. So I needed some prints made of a contract recently, and sometimes in the past I've sent that via the internet to Office Depot locally. So I looked to see and it's on the way to where I was going to be presenting this contract, so I was like, that's awfully convenient, let me just do that. But I looked at their hours, and I was leaving at 8 a.m. for an 8:30 meeting, and they didn't open until 10. What was that the time? No, I was leaving at 9 for a 9:30 meeting, but they didn't open until 10. So the timing didn't work. That was a bummer. So I looked where else I could get this accomplished at, and I remembered the UPS store has done some work for me in the past. So I looked up their hours, and they were open at 9:30, which is perfect timing. And it's also not too far out of the way for me to get to where I was going to present the contract for the discussion I had, or the meeting I had set up. So I went over to the UPS store right when they opened, had it on my phone, sent them the PDF through the email. They were able to print it out, and I left. So yes, there was logic there. They were open. I needed a contract printed. However, I could have probably found one or two other options out there. However, I had confidence that UPS could take care of, the UPS store could take care of me real quickly because I've worked with them before. So instead of looking for other options, there may have been one or two other or three others out there around town that I could have done this. I have confidence, which is an emotion, and chose to do business with the UPS store that morning, right? What else is a good example? Another great example. If you need a plumber at your home for a non-emergency, let's say it's a non-emergency, and hey, this is starting to leak and we need to take care of it. So you get on Google and search, and how do you make decisions between 2 or 3 or 4 different options for plumbing businesses? Of course, you look at their reviews, right? How many reviews do they have? How many stars is it? And a lot of times we'll look at it's a 4.7, so like, what did the 0.3 have to say and how recent was that, right? For instance, if they had 5-star reviews up until about 9 months ago, but it's all been 3-star reviews since then, the most recent 6 or 9 months, that might be a red flag that some things aren't going so well right now. Or the opposite could be true. They had some lower star ratings 4 years ago, but for the last 4 years or 3.5 years, it's been pretty much 5 stars. So it's like, that gives you confidence. That is an emotional, it's logic too, right? But the logic leads to the emotional connection. It's like, I want to call this one first, right? There's something that goes on there that gives you confidence in calling them versus someone else, right? So this is our opportunity, is to lean into that and think about, when I have a customer that comes into our business, they may be in our business with something else in mind, and we take care of that. However, during that interaction, how can I connect with them in a meaningful way so that I can start to uncover a little bit of this and develop a little bit of this? So confidence isn't in a business. Confidence is in the people that work at that business and how they perform, right? My confidence was not in the UPS store. My confidence is in the team that's in that store, because I've worked with them before. I know a couple of them by name, so I was able to go in and I recognize them. That is an emotional connection. It's a logical connection too, but it's an emotional connection that drove that purchasing behavior. And moving forward, I'm just going to use the UPS store. I'm not even going to bother with the Office Depot, because there's been a couple of things that they've missed the mark on in recent history. So I'm going to shift everything through the UPS store because it's super easy. Their hours are easier for me, and a couple of other reasons too, right? So, that being true, let's think about, let's see, where do I have this at? Why do we, what do I have here? Yeah, that's right. Why do we lose customers sometimes? So this can work the other direction. It's like, if I feel like someone doesn't care about what I've got going on, or they choose not to connect with me, or if they can't be bothered to get my order right, there's all kinds of reasons why this might go in a negative direction. We've got to be cognizant of that too. So just a couple of tips about salesmanship in the retail setting. That's what this is about. So let me back this up so you can see it. There we go. So the goal in retail is genuine engagement. That's as simple as I can make it for you. This was something that I did get right in the retail businesses that we owned. Your goal as a salesperson is genuine engagement. When you do this well, it leads to more sales. It just always leads to more sales, right? So we recently purchased a vehicle. And a lot of times when we think about sales and negative sales experiences, we think about the car salesman, right? So that's why I want to talk about that for a second. We recently purchased a vehicle, and I talked to probably 6 different dealerships in the region that I could have purchased this vehicle at. And only one of them engaged me in a genuine way. Only one. And guess which one we did business with? And that was a $50-some thousand purchase. I talked to 6. I went with one of them based on genuine engagement. They were all within $1,000 or $2,000 of the same price. And I think that even the one we went with might have been a hair above the lowest price that I got talking to these folks. But that is what drove my purchasing behavior at a $50-some thousand sale, right? That's meaningful. So how true is that also? Like if I'm willing to spend $1,000 or $2,000 more dollars on a vehicle based on this, how much more is it true for smaller dollar sales, right? Yeah, $20 sale, a $2,000 sale. It's more true for that. So genuine engagement drives everything in retail. So how can you more genuinely connect with and engage with your customers? So we'll talk a little bit about that. You've got to bring the right energy. Remember, be epic, bring the energy is what B stands for. You have to bring the right energy. If you come into work and you are not well rested, if you've been putting crap into your body for food, I mean, what does that lead to? If you're not at 100% or close to it, how can you give anywhere close to that to your customer's experience? And how can you ever expect to progress in your career as a salesperson? It starts with you taking care of yourself. And that means spiritually, that means in relationships, that means in what you eat, that means in the exercise you get, and that means the sleep you get. It means your finance control and habits. All of those things need to be worked on. Now, none of us does everything perfectly. I'm not suggesting that, but you have to care about that because that's the foundation of that. You can't bring the right energy if you don't have the right energy to bring. Okay? So this is an inward reflection. Okay, where do I need to work on next? Man, if I could just manage my finances a little bit differently instead of making dumb decisions, $20 here and $40 there for junk or stuff that doesn't matter. They're putting stuff on a credit card when I shouldn't. All kinds of ways to look at this, right? If I'm more solid financially, if I eat better, if I get better sleep, I am literally a better human when that's happening in my life. And you've sensed that and you've felt that from time to time. Man, I'm well rested. I've been eating pretty well, and you can feel it. You bring a different energy to the world that day, right? So it starts with you. You got to bring the right energy before that can really happen. Now, you can take a stab at genuine engagement without the right energy, but that's pretty foundational, right? You got to take care of yourself. How many retail businesses, businesses in general, but we're talking about retail. How many retail businesses have you gone in the front door, had an experience there, and felt like the people that were working there actually cared that you were there? Very few. I'll just answer that for you. Very few. So all we have to do is bring the right energy and genuinely care that they're there and they're going to have a different experience working with us than they have with 98% of all the other retail experiences they have. 68% of sales are lost due to perceived indifference. Perceived indifference means, as a customer, I feel like you don't care that I'm here. Or I feel like you don't care about me enough to get the job right or the service right. If I feel like you don't care, if I perceive you to be indifferent about me being there and me being a paying customer, am I going to come back? If I've got another good option, no, I won't come back. However, if I feel like you're bringing the right energy and you genuinely engage me instead of some surface level interaction, if you dig a little deeper in an appropriate way, yeah, you got to be socially aware, right? So there's some emotional intelligence and there's some social intelligence that goes into this. And you got to test and measure a little bit. It's like when I say this, it's a little bit of a weird vibe, but when I say that this way, it works. So you got to kind of test and measure how you say what you say and how you interact with people. 68% of sales, that's more than 2/3 of sales are lost based on perceived indifference. So be aware of that. That's what we're talking about. And then confidence in yourself, that's where it starts. That's bringing the right energy, taking care of yourself, builds your self-confidence, right? When you feel good and you're got the right energy, you're more self-confident. But we also need confidence in our product and service. And that's where I started the conversation is, if you aren't confident in your product or service, you should work somewhere else. That's the bottom line. You should work somewhere else if you're not confident in the products and services that you sell. So, a couple of ideas to marinate on. So, I just made up some numbers. for us to talk about, okay? So, this is what we call the 5 ways. This is how we look at increasing revenue in our business. So let me get a little closer so you can see it clearly, okay? So let's just start on the left side. Don't worry about the numbers right now, okay? So we want customers and we want revenue in our business. And I've just kind of made up some numbers that might represent a retail business, and we'll get to the numbers in a minute. So the way we get to customers is our marketing produces leads, and then when they're in front of us or when they're on the phone with us, then we have a sales process that produces some level of conversion rate, right? So leads times conversion, how successful we are in getting them to make a purchase with us, gives us our number of customers that we get to work with. Now those customers come in ever so frequently over time. So some customers, if you're selling tacos, maybe that customer comes in 5 times a month. If you're selling a car, that customer's probably going to only come in 1 time a month, right? They're not going to buy a car that frequently. So it depends on what you sell, how frequently they'll come in. So this is all about, this is largely about customer experience, okay? So now if you've got a taco business and they have a poor experience working with you that first time, then they will come once that month. However, if they come in and have a taco at the beginning of the month, the taco's amazing, and the service is amazing because there was no perceived indifference. I was really taken care of well while we were there, and I was attended to. My glass never went empty. These types of things, right? Then I'm going to be back sooner than later. So this is all about customer experience, okay? And a little bit about the nature of what we sell, right? Average dollar sale is our pricing strategy, our product assortment, what we have to offer to sell. Average dollar sale is also about how we package things together and this type of thing. So customers times the average number of times they come to visit us times the average dollar sale each visit gives us our revenue figure for the business. So we're going to look, let's call this a month of activity, the last month of activity. We had 2,254 people come into the business. And let's say we're open 28 days a month. Let's say 22 days a month. 2254 divided by 22. So that's 102 people, give or take, come in every day. Now, some days it's going to be 50 and some days it'll be 200, but on average it's 100 and whatever that was, right? And we have a destination type business. When people come in, they're not just shopping around. They actually come in to get something done and then leave. So we've got a pretty high conversion rate based on what we sell and our services, right? So 2254 times 0.72 conversion rate, 72% conversion rate, means that we had 1,623 paying customers in the last month. On average, those customers came in 1.05 times. Several of them came in 2 or 3 times, but the majority came in once that month, is what that means, okay? And on average, the average dollar sale was $46.22. So, the revenue is number of customers times the average number of transactions of 1.05 times the average dollar sale leads to a $78,765 month. And if we extend that, if that's an average month, that would produce $945,000 of revenue in the year for that business. Okay? So what we're going to do is look at if we just work a little bit on our salesmanship along the way. And we're going to talk about that. Let's say that the leads are the exact same number month over month. So we don't have an advantage there. We're working with the same number of leads coming in the business. However, our conversion rate, when you give someone a great experience, they're more likely to purchase from you. When you genuinely engage and get better at that, that 72% is going to tick up a little bit over time. So let's say that we increase the conversion rate from 72% just a few points up to 75%. Okay, that's not even a 10% increase. It's not even a 5% increase, I don't think. It's probably more like a 3 or 4% increase. Pretty nominal. So we're going to take that from 72% to 75%, which means that our customers, month over month, goes to 1690. So just a little tweak in genuine engagement can increase that by a couple of points, which gives us 67 more customers that month. That's not small. That's pretty significant. And we're going to, because of that genuine engagement, people are going to be happy to come back a little bit more frequently. So let's say that the next month people come back on average 1.1 times, just a little bit of an uptick. This is like barely, it's hardly even moving the needle. A little bit of an uptick in how frequently people come to do business with us. So what are some ways we can accomplish that in a retail business? Well, we can certainly, once we've genuinely engaged them, we can also share about some products and services that they might not be aware of because they're here for this, but if we share some other items or ideas with them, there's a high likelihood they can come back. And I've got lots of examples of that being true, and it's true in just about any business. So there's a real easily justified bit of an uptick from 1.05 to 1.10. Average dollar sale, we're going to say that that actually increases a little bit of a jump, which will be nice. That's 54.72 is what we're going to use. So that genuine engagement can lead to a little bit more frequent visits, and those visits can be more meaningful. So if I'm purchasing, let's say I'm purchasing those printed documents while I'm at that UPS store that I was talking about. I'm purchasing those printed documents. It's like, hey, looks like you're in business for yourself or got a business conversation. How are you doing on business cards right now? Oh man, I'm so glad you asked me that. I'm pretty low on them. Could you guys reorder some for me? Sure. Easy average dollar sale bump. But you got to have a little bit of rapport with me to be able to ask me that question effectively, right? If like I know at the UPS store makes awesome prints on canvas. So the way that we talk about this and hold it and present it can make a difference too. So if I simply have this in the background and I say, hey, we've got a special on prints. Is that something that you're interested in? No, thanks. I'm good right now. Okay, cool. So that's one way to handle that. And the way you handle that will lead to nearly zero sales. Because I brought not very compelling energy to that moment and that questioning and that interaction. I didn't really care enough to engage the product. So that's something else. You've got to engage the conversation. And you can do that when you sell a physical product. You've got an opportunity to engage that physically. So like in this case, what I'd recommend is, hey, let me ask you a question. How many pictures on your phone are awesome but haven't been printed out before? I mean, there's like 30 good questions you could ask just to open the conversation. Oh man, like 100% of them. Like all of the great pictures I got on my phone are just digital. I'm not printed them out. I'd love to. Well, let me tell you, we've actually got a special. These canvases are actually printed here in-house. Now, we print it on stretched canvas, so it's nice quality. It's going to hold up well. And the inks that we use have whatever the features are and the benefits of that. And it just produces really rich color. So these are normally $30. We've actually got this size on special for $24.95. And we've actually had a few people come in and purchase 8 or 10 of them for their house or for gifts. So let me know if that's of interest to you. And we can take care of that for you. Now, a couple of things happened there. I did not slow the sale down and ask them to make a decision about it right now. What I did was I made a suggestion and planted a seed. Now, there will be a handful of people that are like, well, how does that work? Do I just send you a photo from my phone? Yeah, it's really easy, XYZ. Why don't we do that now? There will be a handful of people that do it right now. And there will be a lot more people that if you plant that seed articulately, handle that item with care, well, yeah, we put them on these canvases and, it's going to be good quality. You can hang it up on the wall and, so let me know if you want one of those. That came across a lot differently, right? When I handle this with care and act like it's got value, because it does, when I act like it's got value, then they perceive it to have a higher value. If I am flippant with it and don't give it much care, the value plummets. Okay? So the way that you physically interact with a product makes a huge difference. You want to present this, you want to behave like this has got value, because it does. It's got the value of $24.95 in revenue for the business. And if you can make that $24.95 become $249 or $245 because they bought 10 of them, then that's even better, right? That increases average dollar sale. So all goes to say there's a lot of ways that we can increase average dollar sale, a lot of ways. Another way we can increase average dollar sale is to not discount. Lots of retail businesses discount way too frequently, way too loosey-goosey. Now that'll be a different video that I'd want to show you the impact on profitability for a business when you discount, even by 10%. 10% is huge. It's huge. It really screws up the bottom line for a business, okay? And so not discounting can also increase average dollar sales. So all those things to say, we're going to say that this business month over month increases average dollar sale from $46.22 to $54.72. And that takes the revenue, $16.90 times 1.1 times 54.72 gives us $101,000 $724. That's a big jump month over month. In a year, if that becomes an average, some months will be higher, some months lower, but if that becomes an average, that would lead to not $945 a year, that would lead to $1.22 million in a year. That is not a small increase. That is a significant increase. And I did the math on it a little bit earlier. That is a 29.17%. I can't hardly see that, can you? 29.17% increase on revenue year over year. That's massive. That's around about a 30% increase in revenue. Think about if the business increased in revenue, which it can, 30% every year. That would be massive. So the point here is very small tweaks in the numbers produce a compounded effect and really produces big numbers and big improvements in the business financially. And like I said, if part of your bonus or your commission structure is based on how well this is doing, what this means is that you have a lot more control maybe than you realized you have. And there are a lot of ways we can accomplish this. If you got questions about that, connect with me, because it's a little different recipe for every different individual in an organization as well as for different organizations, right? It's just everybody's got a different communication style, different ways that they can approach this will be successful for them. And I'm happy to discuss that with you so that you can be successful. If you're successful in increasing the sales, the business will be successful. All right? So let me just, one last thing. Come back to here. And before we go back to that, the definition of sales is professionally helping someone to buy. And we need to bring the right energy so that we can genuinely engage, so that people know that we care, that they're there, and place value on them being a patron of the business. All right? Hope that was helpful. Hope you have a great afternoon, and reach out if I can help you individually. I'm happy to. Cheers.